Boundaries are about self-respect. They're not a punishment. They shouldn't be used as a punishment. I know they can be. I know people will say, again, do that. I don't associate with anyone who disagrees with me. Well, that's not a boundary. That's avoidance. That's you not wanting to be open to what someone else has to say. Welcome. Thank you for stopping in and for listening to this episode of Intuition, Your Success Compass. I'm laughing because for those that could see on camera, we have a guest today. This is Upsy. She's my calico, and she probably has the worst boundaries of any animal I have ever met. And today's topic is about boundaries. So is it any wonder that she showed up today? It's At some point during this recording, I have no doubt that this gal is going to reach over and bite me because she just is spicy. She's spicy. She's a calico. Her name is Upsy because when she came to us, she was Chubsy, and we could not find a name that fit. So Chubsy Upsy is what she became, but her thyroid's under control now, and she's eating good food. We've had her about 4 years now. She came to us after a pretty rough background, we're told. So while she is the most challenging animal we own, she is also the funniest, which kind of allows her to get away with some of these behaviors. I don't know if you've ever had a cat. You don't tell them not to do something. You just basically work around it. So today's episode is about boundaries and how to recognize them as a key to your self-surety and your confidence and your knowing of who you are, but not to use them as a weapon. So let's get real. The word boundaries is often used and misused as a way to avoid discomfort or control others. So I have heard people say, well, they'll just have to get over it. That's my boundary. Meanwhile, they're not even clear about what that is. When I say, well, what is your boundary? They're like, I don't like that. Well, that's not a boundary. That's an opinion. So if someone is treading on someone else's boundaries or on your boundaries, it's likely because you just let them, because you want to avoid any kind of discomfort about these conversations or creating a boundary. And again, that goes to what is okay with you and what's not. When you know who you are and you trust yourself, boundaries become really simple and empowering. It was one of the things that after I went a couple years ago, when I went through the positive intelligence program initially, and then I went for the training, and then I became a coach for them, which I had not done yet. In all my years of doing this, that was one of the things I realized, that boundaries became really easy because I knew myself so well, and I no longer felt apologetic for the things I couldn't do or I chose not to do. So I no longer had to spin like the story about why I couldn't do something. It just was. It was simple. It matters because when you know who you are and you trust who you are, it's empowering. And you don't have to use the word boundaries. It simply is. This is just what we do and how we do it. I told you she'd bite me at some point, right? Stop it. It's just so fresh. So fresh. So the real boundary that will happen is if she keeps doing it, I will put her on the floor. So it's not that she goes without repercussions from her behavior, but she never bites down hard. It's just like this little, I love you, I'm still here. But it matters that you learn true trust and self-worth boundaries because it gives you more freedom and less resentment and deeper relationships because you're so clear about who you are that those that don't align with that won't be allowed in the circle and they just won't show up. I truly believe that the energy of the universe kind of protects us from them. So, because boundaries are about self-respect, they're not a punishment. They shouldn't be used as a punishment. I know they can be. I know people will say, again, do that. I don't I don't associate with anyone who disagrees with me. Well, that's not a boundary. That's avoidance. That's you not wanting to be open to what someone else has to say. That's you not being healthy and not really knowing who you are, and maybe not being able to engage in intelligent conversations because you just say, go away. I'm not talking about it. So, in order to have boundaries that are about self respect and not punishment, you have to really build your own self surety and not be in fear, because fear is what's going to say, nothing of my kind come in here, or no one who disagrees with me, get out of here, gets to come anywhere near me or have a conversation. It's what will have you say, someone who has a different sexual orientation than I do, my boundary is to not discuss anything with them or not be anywhere near them because, that's weird or that's wrong. No, that's ignorance and that's fear. And when you are empowering yourself and you're learning about you and what you like and what you don't like, you recognize, well, someone having a different sexual orientation than you just means that the world has more love in it. They're not asking you to interact. And if they are, your boundary would be, oh, thank you for the compliment. However, my interest or orientation is this way. See how that works? You don't have to get upset. You don't have to be worried that they're after you. But yet, if that compliment is such that it happens, you truly should be complimented. You should feel good about yourself and then say, no, thank you. That's a healthy boundary. So when you don't have fear about things, you can say no. I like to say no, thank you, because I think manners are important. But you can say no without a fear of repercussions because you're simply being who you are. And when we work with the horses, we call them beneficial boundaries because they're beneficial to both the human and the horse. If I have shown you that, no, you can't use your head to push me around, you 1,200-pound animal, I have shown you that that's my boundary. What then gets to happen is I get to love on you and I get to give you the attention and I get to dance with you in this way that we call liberty because you understand that I'm not a horse. That's not happening. And I understand that I have to show you that because it's beneficial to both of us because I don't need a broken face. So the same thing happens with people if you are, again, aware of who you are, what you like, and what you don't like. That takes a little bit of getting to know yourself. Like, I have better boundaries now than I have ever had in my life because at one point I didn't want to upset people, but mostly I didn't want to have a conversation about it. So it was easier for me to just do what they wanted rather than delve into what matters to me or what doesn't matter to me. And now I don't really have an issue with that because I know how to say, oh, that sounds important to you. It's not something I would be interested in. Thank you so much. And I also feel like I'm not wasting anybody's time anymore because I think I now know it's rude to go along with something you don't like. I believe, be there authentically or don't be there at all. And that's one of the boundaries I set for myself, to learn boundaries. If I didn't feel like I could be somewhere authentically at your kid's birthday party, out to dinner, going to an event, or even making time to have coffee together, if I didn't feel like I could do it authentically, I wasn't doing it at all. And I didn't give excuses or reasons. I just said, oh, I'm not available. Thank you. And that, to me, helped me identify where I was unsure of my worth. I could spend all the time listening to this person and, yes, providing free coaching and that empathetic ear, but I wasn't acknowledging my worth. Like, where did I want to spend my time? And this includes with family. Gonna say it very clearly. There are family members I will not hang out with. Not that they're inviting me. I want to be clear about that. They have choice too. they're not inviting me because they probably know I wouldn't go, but I would consider it. But if I didn't go, it's because I felt like, no, you're not inviting me authentically either. So it's important to recognize where your worth is. My time on this planet, I know, is finite. Like I know that there's a point in which I will croak. I want to look back at my life in that retrospect that it's brilliant to do. And I want to know that eventually I learned to value my own self-worth so much that I valued others' self-worth. And I valued their time to not be there if I didn't authentically want to be there, which also means that when I'm with someone, I am there. I am present. I am not thinking about other things. I am not distracted. I am there. That's a boundary that I decided to create with myself of presence, of being totally with someone when I'm there, not in a creepy way. Don't get me wrong, but in a way that says, this time to me is valuable, and your presence in my life is so valuable that I will completely be here. And it helps you create clear, but not overly rigid boundaries. So, for instance, if somebody, off the top of my head, if somebody invited me to go, somebody did actually just invite me to something this weekend that in the past I would have begged off on because we haven't spent time together. And I would have been like, is this going to be awkward? No, not anymore. What she invited me to feels so fun, to support another person I don't know who's, written a book. And I want to go say, good job, you. This is so fun. And on a topic I'm interested in reading. So I'll buy the book. I'll have the person sign it. And then I'll go to lunch with this other person that I know, but we haven't stepped up our relationship in this way. But before I responded, I checked in with myself to see, does this feel like something that I can be authentically at and having a good time and interested in the subject matter and really talking to the person? Or is this something I'm doing out of obligation or a feeling of I should because we haven't done this yet? And it was a very clear, no, this sounds like a lot of fun and to support another woman in her writing of her book and something I want to read. And yes, it feeds my total book addiction, but that's just a plus on top of it. So if you identify where you feel unsure of your worth, that's probably where your boundaries are getting trampled over. And yes, it's easy for families to walk all over this because we learn wonky boundaries in childhood, especially if we watch someone not have any and not understand where their time and energy and essence was important. So if you start feeling more of a sense of worth, you can do that by asking yourself, just like I did, does this feel like something that feels like it would light me up? Or does this feel like something that I'm going to resent later that I gave a couple hours of my weekend time to? If you can practice that and make small commitments to yourself so that you learn to trust yourself, you commit that you'll practice this, you'll feel something or you'll sense or you'll know if something feels like it would be a good time or not. Then you get to go experience the thing, but you get to do it in a way that you trust yourself because you practice that. And say you go to this thing, say I go to this thing, this is not going to happen, but say I go to this and afterwards I'm like, boop, not people. That will have been a wonderful practice of self-trust. I trusted myself to show up and act like a, decent human being. And I'll also trust myself for the takeaway. I will trust myself to assess, is this something I actually want to do again, with this person? Or is this something that I can say, I don't think we align in that way, and that's okay? Because I also feel like, why take up somebody else's space when there's probably someone who does align with that person, and they would have a fabulous time because I am not the end all be all. Sometimes I can be boring because I get so much joy out of simply being alive that I don't need a lot of drama. I don't have drama in my life. I don't want drama in my life. The British baking show is about the level of drama that I want to have in my life because I love Noel. I just adore him. So, practicing self-trust exercises and committing to yourself and showing up in them and then getting the feedback, oh, so exciting. Because then you can learn how to say no. And that whole guilt thing that's just a waste of energy doesn't get to show up anymore because you have such a sense within self. It's like having a pendulum inside your body, a knowing of what feels right and what doesn't feel right. And this is actually one of the things I do respect about so many things, but that I respect about Mike is he has very clear boundaries on who and how he'll spend his time. He will stretch those boundaries for me when it comes to my kid or my closest friends. But beyond that, he's been very clear about how he wants to interact with people. And my love of talking to everybody on the planet is not his. Unless, of course, you have a Pittsburgh Steelers jersey on or Purdue. Then you're going to talk to him whether you want him to talk to him or not, because there he has no boundaries. So learning to say no without any guilt is imperative, especially with family, because I've heard so many clients say to me, well, I have this family thing coming up. We go every year. I'm always miserable. It costs me this amount of money. Then why are you going? Why are you going? Poor boundaries. That's why you're going. So let's talk about this and either shift how you see this trip, have you contribute to the trip in a different way, or you're not going. You're not going. You can totally blame it on Vicky. I don't care. But you can shift your boundaries by understanding who you are and what lights you up. And the very real fact that your time is finite too. And I don't like saying life is short because I believe life is exactly the length it's meant to be for each person. But it is too sweet to spend time on things that we do not have to or want to do. So sometimes people will over-explain, and both in, excuse me, over-explaining their boundaries. They'll go on and on and on. Well, I don't do this because of this, and I don't do that. I actually had a conversation like this not too long ago, and I held my hand up and I said, I don't want to be rude, but all you have to do is act in your boundaries. You don't have to tell me about them. If you act in your boundary, your healthy boundaries, I will be able to spot them from a mile away, and I promise you, I will not traipse all over them. Because you know why? I have good boundaries. So I recognize healthy boundaries. I will high five your boundaries if I recognize you used one with me. That is how much I love these things and how much it kind of annoys me that the word has been hijacked to mean something that is rudeness. Because if you are over explaining your boundaries, I actually don't believe you believe them. You're looking to me for permission, or you want to be a biatch. And I have no interest in that at all. So how you communicate your boundaries without drama or defensiveness is you live them. You live them. Learn what they are, appreciate what they are, and live them. Like, understand that not everyone has to like your boundaries for them to be valid. Like, one of my boundaries, actually, somebody just lovingly, so sweetly said, I want to buy you some chips, some candy, or some cookies. And I said, that is so sweet. No, thank you. And I said, I appreciate this very much. I have a lot of dietary choices as well as sensitivities. So it's just not safe. And they're like, I really want to get you something that we have a project coming up. And it's kind of like when you're cramming for a test and you have junk food. So I said to her, okay, listen, if this means that much to you, that you provide this, here is one sweet that I absolutely love. Sour gummy worms, the vegan version. If you find them and you want to bring them, I am never going to tell someone they can't bring me a sour gummy worm. Just not going to do it. So it was a way for me to communicate what is my boundary, but also respect that she's saying to me, this is something she really wants to do. So she must know that giving is her love, right? And she wants to have fun. And probably also wants permission to eat whatever is her fun, loving thing. So you bring on those, but feel no obligation. But there's my boundary because I'm just not going to eat those other things. I'm not going to because I have created a boundary with my body that is very healthy. That is certain. I won't go into the list because you'll be like, goodness gracious, do you eat air? No, I'm very well fed. I just have requirements in a physical sense that have made it necessary and life prolonging for me to not eat certain things. That's a boundary you can have with your own mind and your own body. You can say, I know the craving for sugar right now is so great. My boundary is that I've promised that I will get a glass of water, I will go for a walk, or I will eat dark chocolate, low sugar kind of thing. That's another example of a healthy boundary. Not everyone is going to understand that. I have people tell me all the time, you can just have a little bit of dairy. You can have a little bit of gluten. My partner says that to me sometimes. And instead of saying, this is why, all this inflammation, pain, joint and everything, I just say, no, thanks. Appreciate it. Because they don't need me to lecture. If they're not hearing it, that's on them. No, thank you is a full sentence, full statement. And I will use it over and over again. I do not feel deprived by not having these things. It's okay. I feel good. My head works. I like that. So you don't have to push back against negative pushback. You meet it with a calm confidence. Like recently, Mike's mom said to me she wanted to buy me these almonds that I like. And she's like, if you can still eat them. And it was said with that inflection. And I smiled and I said, I can. Thank you so much. And I just left it at that. I really can. I'm not taking something that is going to sit on a shelf or sometimes I just give him the mic. But in the past, full disclosure, I would have felt bad about the fact that she's keeping track of what I can and can't eat. Now I'm like, she probably has a list somewhere. I know this woman. There's a list somewhere saying Vicky can't have. And I love her for caring enough about me to not do that, that I find the comments to be endearing. But that's because of my own knowing that and boundary with myself, that I know my self-worth, and my self-worth includes putting things in this, opening that's good for me. So when there's pushback, there's just a calmness about me that I'm not starving. We're all good. Okay. So if that happens in relationships, you could say, I love you, but I need time to process before we talk about this again. You can ask for your space. Space is a big thing in boundaries. I think that's actually what people are asking for is some space to be me, some space to consider what you just said, some space to feel how I feel, to even come up with an idea. At work, you could say, at this time, an extra project would be too much. I am happy to revisit this in a month. This is not, I don't think I'm a good coach for you. I say this when I talk to people. I don't do free discovery sessions for this. You have to have some skin in the game. You schedule a one-time appointment. If you decide to coach, I subtract that from your coaching practice or price, rather, your package, your package. But I will say to people, no, this is not my specialty. If you want to understand your brain wiring, you want self-surety, you want your intuition to work on demand, I'm your gal. You need systems for your business. You're hiring the wrong people. Hi, I'm your gal. But you want to be that go-getter and hit six figures. Although that's not such a good example, Vicky, because almost everyone I work with increases their profitability. But if that's your sole focus, I am not your gal. I am not your gal. You want me to help you meet the one? Mm-mm. Unless the one is you, then I'm your gal. So at work, I have said, I'm not the coach for you. I can suggest a few that I know that work in this area, and that means turning down 5 figures a lot of the time. That's a big gulp. But I also know my boundaries well enough to know I want to show up in each session knowing that I have all the skills to help you and that we're a good resonance, right? So in friendships, you can say, I care about you, but I don't have the capacity for long venting phone calls right now. One of the things that I have said in the past, and yes, when you begin to implement boundaries, people may go away. You have to let them, allow them to wander off. One of the things I have in my relationships is everyone needs to vent. Everyone needs to vent. I am happy to be here for you to vent. And you have about as much time as it takes us to brew a cup of pour over coffee, or 5 minutes if we're not doing that. Because if you're venting and it moves into complaining and you're the person listening to this person vent and complain, you are then manifesting whatever they're talking about with them. You just hooked up, you just joined up with them to create that. I made a commitment to myself that I won't do that. If you're complaining about something and we're not working towards solution, then I need to move on. I need to help you understand what might be necessary to shift. And I need to voice that this is my personal boundary. And yes, some of it does have to do with being a full-time coach in that, if you're a pharmacist, you want to answer questions about medicine all the time. If you're a therapist, you want to be in that therapist. If you're a mechanic, oh, you mechanics, I'm so sorry. People must ask you about every rattle, every bump, everything. Or if you're married to a mechanic, you probably have to hear that too. So these are the boundaries that are necessary for us to get along well with other. We don't have to like everybody. That's nowhere in the human code or even the soul level code. It's not necessary. So I care about you, but I don't have the capacity for a long venting phone call right now. I can give you a few minutes and then let's plan something fun. Let's raise the energy. Grief processing is different. Don't misconstrue what I'm saying here. But yet there's still a line there. There's still a boundary there that needs to be instilled, I think. So just be clear and direct. Don't over-explain. Don't apologize for what you've discovered are your boundaries. Okay? Don't apologize for not eating crappy food because somebody wants you to eat what you deem as crappy food. Okay? Someone might say that the fake cheese I eat is crappy, but you know what? Listen, cheese used to be life. So the couple times a month I eat plant-based cheese, give me that, okay? No over-explaining. Use I statements. I prefer. What I know about myself is I'm practicing this. I believe. I feel. Use the I statements. Don't blame. Don't say, this is my boundary and you will not cross it. If you have to say that, you're not good at communication. You need to step back and begin learning a few more skill sets there. Stay neutral. Stay sure, self-sure. Firm if necessary. This whole thing about no contact, when people go no contact with their parents, I believe in that. I believe in that. I think that's important. If you're here sucking at oxygen, you're here to grow, you're here to learn, and you're showing your adult children that you won't do that, you're probably not listening to this podcast now that I think about that. But in the chance that you are, no contact is a healthy boundary, and it is something that should be respected and honored. So if you have someone in your circle who's gone no contact with their parents, love them, support them. You didn't grow up with those parents. Don't judge. Don't judge. Judge not. Your judge judges yourself, judges others, judges circumstance. Don't do that. Don't do that. If you stay neutral and others don't like your boundary, that's okay. That's fine. Honor them for that choice in their life too. You don't need to justify your choices to anyone, most especially to everyone. They're your choices. If you're a card-carrying adult, those are your choices. Start believing in that a bit more and not worrying about how other card-carrying adults are going to handle this. And yes, there's too many nuances in family relationships to go into in a half-hour podcast, but hopefully this will get you started. Self-surety is where you are. If you have self-surety, if you know who you are and what your boundaries are, they're easy. When somebody says, I want to book on a Monday, I say, no. Nope. I'm not available on Mondays. And in the beginning, that was hard for me because I used to work 6-7 days a week. But then it got easier. And I'm like, no, Mondays aren't, I'm not available on Mondays. Do one of the other days work for you? Because when we do that, when you respect your own boundaries, you learn to love yourself a little bit more. And when you learn to love yourself a little bit more, you act in the world more loving. And when the world is more loving, it begins to be an amazing place that I truly believe is possible. Boundaries can be like picket fences. You can see over them. They have little spaces. You can open up the little gate to let someone in if you like, or you can talk to someone over the picket fence and still have that boundary. So I wish you well with yours. If you need help, you know where to find me. And I will see you in the next episode. Hey, if this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who could use this message. If you have a moment, leaving a review will help more people find this podcast. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate your time, your energy, and your presence in this universe. Have a fantastic day and more. I'll see you in the next episode.